Well, obviously, we'll get rolling. Another big-time opponent, big game for us. I think this is our fourth ranked opponent in the top 25 in 6 weeks or so. So it's a challenge, and this is probably as athletic and the highest ranked team other than Michigan that will play this year or have played this year. So last week was quite obviously very tough. It was very unique too. I've never been a part of a game that's been canceled. I've only been in one rain-delayed game. I think it was last year. So very unique situation. Don't like it. I mean, to have a game canceled. I know we'll kind of. I'll probably ask questions about it, but it was a unique situation, and don't like it. Didn't want it to be done that way. Was not going to accept it, but in reality, the commissioner kind of made a call about it, and as you hindsight look at it, we probably wouldn't have started playing until at least 1:15 in the morning. And cooler heads usually prevail, and to not put our kids, our student athletes, in harm's way probably was the right decision. But it's not easy, and it's really not easy to stand in front of your team and tell them that the game is over and they don't have an opportunity to keep swinging and clawing and fighting like is what we pride ourselves on. So I think our guys are over that. Hopefully we handled it the best way we possibly could. Tried to tell them deep down inside it was probably the best thing for the safety and health and the well-being of themselves, but it's not easy to accept. It's not easy to accept when you don't play well. It's not easy to accept losing, but it's not easy to accept not having an opportunity to continue to finish. But hopefully they understood, and we move forward and past it. So, and again, that's what we got to do. We got to move on. We got to find a way to continue to get better at what it is we're doing. They're not going to change. You know, we kind of focused this week on going back to, hey, let's not forget who we are, the culture of our program, the things we want to do, and that's what we want to see. I think that's probably the thing that became a little bit disheartening if we saw special teams-wise. And I like to point to special teams because it kind of ties the offense and the defense together, and it doesn't just point a finger at one side of the ball. But the effort that I think that Central Florida had a little bit more of the maybe, I don't want to say the size and speed, but it showed up more on special teams than it did about anything for the first time this year, even maybe so in the Michigan game. So if there was anything to kind of really harp upon, really was kind of the effort, not just the effort, but the attitude and some of the things that happen special teams-wise that gets probably deflected from all the rest of the game. But that's really where we're going to tie ourselves to. And when I look at a team that we're getting ready to play, I like to press play on the special teams to find out what they're really about. You know, okay, I know South Florida's got a great offense and they got a great defense and all these things, but when you press play and watch their special teams, you're going to tell what the culture of the program is really about. And to me, press and play on our special teams in some phases, in some areas, I didn't see what I wanted to see. And I think that's where we really got to make sure we go back. And it doesn't matter what the situation, what the score. And a lot of that is sometimes younger guys. You know, not all. We don't just play young guys on special teams. We play our starters as well. But there's some spots right there that we got to really kind of say, hey, we cannot be affected, and we cannot let the emotions and the ups and downs and maybe being down in a game change who we are and how we go about our business. And that's one of those big phases that we got to make sure, no matter what, that we pride ourselves in.
Questions? Defensively, it's been a struggle the past couple of weeks. Is there anything you change up, or how do you get that group back on track?
No, it's about gaining some confidence, and I think that's where we are right now. Navy kind of put us in a little bit of a tough situation, and sometimes you get your confidence kind of, you know, knocked down a little bit, and then you got to go back out there, and you got to believe in the things that you're doing, and you got to find ways to continue to get better. And I try to tell guys, we kind of took a step back to say, okay, let's look at what we see on film on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at practice, and don't think you're going to see something different on Saturday. So if we're not doing the things that we need to do on practice on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and especially on Thursday, then it kind of goes with our definition of insanity. Expecting, doing the same things over and over again, expecting to get different results. So you press play in practice, and you don't see the things that we're preaching and talking about. Don't think that you're just going to go out there and because of your ability make plays on Saturday. So we got to do a lot better job in those areas, in those ways.
It's the fourth team in 7 weeks you're playing coming off a bye. Like with Navy, when you talked about they changed some things up, but how difficult is that not knowing it? It presents maybe some unknowns.
It does. I mean, there's a lot of things that are adding upon, the energy and the emotions that it comes from, not winning, to have some of those positives in there that keep your guys going and bring them in just to generate that. We know we have to kind of manufacture that right now. Teams that are having buys make it difficult. I mean, you can see not just always in how they play and what they add new, but even the speed and the freshness of a team. To come in, we don't dictate when we play. We don't get to pick the schedule. We don't get to pick game times. But some of those things are where we're battling with to try to all those things that are kind of adding up on you, those night games and different things like that that we have to find a way to get over that hump. And a lot of it has to do with just the energy. And I don't mean just the effort energy level, but I mean the energy level of everything about what it is we do, how we practice, and those kinds of things.
Is it an obstacle because this was supposed to be your bye weeks? Did this change the rhythm of your schedule, or have you known about it long enough that it doesn't happen?
Well, we've known about it for a few weeks. I mean, we do have some guys that had some things planned. We had kids that we had given them the schedule at the beginning of camp and kind of laid it out and said, here's where our bye schedule will be, and this is what you'll be expected to do, and this is a time. But I'm not saying they had a whole bunch of plans. It didn't throw us off completely, other than trying to picture where you're going to be and when you can kind of get that little break. That's not as big a deal, I would say, as it might be to some people that had to deal with travels and different things like that. We're going to play who they put up against us. They're going to play at the times that they tell us to. It's on us to be able to handle those situations.
Defensively, there've been some big runs, last week anyway. Big pass attempts, it looks like the DBs they look bad, Is it you're getting beat up front, secondary?
No, we had a blown, the very first touchdown, we had a blown coverage. And we turned a guy loose down the seam, which you wouldn't think you would do. And then the next long one, we got beat, and it wasn't a blown coverage or anything. We got beat to the inside where we can't get beat, and give up an 80-yarder. So to start the game, you give up a 70-yarder and an 80-yarder. Is really it's only 13 points. I understand that, and 13 points is 13 points. It's the emotional effect that I think has the bigger impact on us as a defense, as a team, as a program.
How are you playing up front, linebackers, DBs? How would you evaluate that?
Well, we need to get better. I mean, I think last week up front it's really hard. I mean, our guys up front didn't get a whole lot of opportunities. Most everything was on the edges and was down the field. So some of the strengths of who we are and what we kind of rely ourselves on, if you even look back at the Michigan game, are those guys up front. Those are the guys that the strength of, I'd say of the defense, and to have the multiple guys and the depth that we can have, that they were, kind of negated from the game a bit, and then all of a sudden you get those situations you get down, then, that they're not nearly as effective at doing what it is that they do. So, but it's hard to, you got to tie it all together. That's why, you got to have complementary football. You got to be good in all areas. You got to be able to set edges and do the kind of things that we think are important, that I know they're important, and the only ways to be successful. And when you can't do them, obviously you're trying to find different ways. But I still believe it comes down to that emotional factor of things that, when things don't go well and the adrenaline, the drain, it has a reciprocal effect on more people than you would believe.
Through 6 games, where do you think you guys have made the most progress this season?
Well, I still think, offensive line has been a big progress. I think that last week they did a really good job for pass protection and things like that. And, I think Hayden's done a really good job last week at having some patience in the pocket, taking what's there. And again, we've grown. You've seen that from the start to finish. And that's where sometimes it's hard, even defensively. There's some things you'd say, you've regressed and you've gone back the other way. And that's not because of lack of effort. That's not because of lack of practice. Sometimes that's the bigger exposure to some different things that we're seeing. So I think there's progression in everything that we're doing. The noticeable ones, I'd say probably O-line, our quarterback and his play and his ability to understand the offense and know what we need to do with the ball.
There have been some tough results for this program in the USF series in recent years. And obviously, all of that predates your time here. But there's a potential when you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds for there to be some scar tissue there. how much do you concern yourself with some of those past results, and you feel like you need to coach these guys up, maybe build a little confidence, just relative to USF?
We're trying. I don't know. I mean, where we are right now, and again, that's probably something I haven't thought as much about after coming off of not playing as well last week and some of the situations and the whole different mindset of whatever they have done in the past. I think we've kind of put that stuff behind us, but we are a product of our experiences, and you got to hope and pray and probably address it a little bit to of what has happened in the past. Now, 18 to 22-year-olds. Sometimes their memory span and sometimes the opportunity for them to, remember a lot of those things. I mean, just like Saturday night. I mean, yes, it hurts and it was hard. And 18 to 22-year-olds bounce back and come back in here on a Monday and Tuesday feeling a little bit better than sometimes older guys do. So I'm hoping that that's still that resiliency. It's one of those things that whether it's something bad happens and they revert back and think back, oh, we've been here before. Or they revert back to the week before. I sometimes tend to worry more about the week before of having that kind of come back up in their mind if we give up a big play that, oh my goodness, here we go again.
Quentin Flowers, is he similar to what we faced last week or better?
I'm not going to say he's better, obviously. I think he is definitely more of a dynamic runner. It is a lot different of an offense. And some people that wouldn't know that, well, there's still a spread. The quarterback runs the football, yeah. He is very dynamic, and his ability, obviously, to what they do to spread the field and to give him space. If and when he takes off, he can change a game. And you've seen that. I mean, heck, they're down 16-0 in opening game against San Jose, and in the second quarter, he decides to take over, and they had no answers for him. He could make plays with his feet. He can extend plays. He could take off and run the distance. So different, but I think this is probably the most explosive quarterback that we'll face and see.
How are your guys emotionally and mentally after what they've gone through?
Well, time will tell. I mean, they come out and then they go about their business. That's what you got to do as a coach. That's why I'm spending more time inside the locker room and walking around the locker room and hanging around those guys and just trying to get a feel and a vibe for who they are and what are their because when they walk in here, we've kind of for 8 months kind of programmed them, pushed them, and to walk in here with that smile and that bounce and that energy, and it's the outside that yes we can see, but it's the inside that we got to kind of dive into and find out and figure out. And again, what helps is when they know you care, when they know that you got their back, when you know that no matter what the situation that you're going to be there for them. I'm hoping that that's what pulls them through some of these tougher times. But there are emotions, there are energies, there are things that can pull you and hold you back, and that's our jobs as coaches.
How big of a concern is that at this point, halfway through the season?
I think the energy level is a concern. And I don't say that they have a lack of energy, but I just know that, what is most draining. I haven't been in a whole lot of these situations, but what is most draining is when, you're working so darn hard, you've committed so darn hard to doing something, and then you don't get the results you want. If you didn't commit quite as hard, if the off season wasn't so hard, and I'm not saying it was different in the past, but maybe it was more of a laid back, hey, this is a different atmosphere and we're going to work out, but it's a little bit more laid back in some of those things. Maybe you don't grasp as hard. Maybe the emotions, the adrenaline, and all the commitment doesn't weigh on you as much. And that's those things that go through my head is to say, okay, now where are these guys? Because they've done everything we've asked them to do, and yet you don't get the results that they want. And that's when you look them in the face and say that's a part of life. We told you from the get-go, you can rip your chest open, hand us your heart, do everything we ask you to do, and guess what it guarantees you? Nothing. It doesn't. It guarantees that you'll be a better person. It guarantees you'll be able to handle whatever comes your way in the future, but it doesn't guarantee you success right now. It doesn't. And we all live in that ADD world that we want it now. I said that when I was hired. No, I don't want to wait. I'm not going to accept anything. I got ADD just like the rest of them, But when you want it right now, it makes it more difficult.
So you feel like you have to say that, reinforce that, so that they keep pushing like they were, that they don't think, well, it's not doing any good. Eventually
No, I hope that doesn't go through them. I hope that they understand that the journey of what it is that we do. And I was reminded by a couple of my former players last night that sent me some messages. Remember, Coach, you always reminded us it was about the journey, not the destination. And I said, yeah, I appreciate that. That's things. It's great to hear my words reiterated to me so that I can remember them as well. But it's a part of that, and you don't want to say it's a process and it's a building thing because that's not fair to the older guys. But that, hey, you understand about the journey. We told you nothing was truly guaranteed to us, even with all the commitment. But that's the game of life.
It's been harder than you thought.
It's been difficult. It's been difficult, but when you got good people around you, when you got good people that keep fighting, when you don't lose, when you don't lose your mind. I mean, in the sense that yes, there's times I want to lose my mind, but understanding that we have to make sure, especially as the leader, that you can stay focused. You can stay, as the guy that emotionally can hold this together. How hard was it going to be? I didn't know. I mean, football's a really tough sport, and I hate to use the word hard. It's like, well, shoot, how hard has that been? Well, define hard. Everybody's got a different definition. It's a relative term. Has there been a lot more ups and downs? There's been a lot more things that have come your way maybe you didn't expect. Yeah, maybe, but I would never have expected it not to be difficult.
So how do you keep going?
I told the senior guys, it's looking at their faces. It's knowing that, hey, what we committed to doing, what the energy, and not changing and not saying, okay, well, hey, we got to start doing this and don't worry about. No, it's making sure that I look at those guys in the face and know when this thing's all said and done that they know I've given them, our coaches have given them everything that we possibly could. Us being the same, practicing what we preach, that, hey, we knew we were going to give everything we got, not guaranteed of what results we'd get. But it's looking at those guys and knowing that, the commitment that they've made, the changes in a lot of things that they've made, and the acceptance that a lot of the things that we've done that they've made. Whether there's one of them or all of them, there's still there's some for sure, and we owe it to them. I owe it to them.
You've mentioned all year the place kicking competition would be like a weekly thing, obviously.
Yeah.
How did it come to be, Jones?
Competition. It was a competition and just consistency over time, and that's where even in practice Jones started to show that more consistency, and we try to evaluate. I mean, just your body language, demeanor, the how you affect others around you is a big deal too. And when guys can lose some confidence, if they can't bounce back, it's difficult. And even Pasley made some of them, but you could just see some of those, the ball going sideways and going through. It doesn't help the confidence of the kicker, So even going into the weeks, we still, we got to compete and continue to do this thing and find out who's going to give us the best opportunity on Saturdays.
Still hurt, then he hasn't been dressed.
Yeah, he's still not anywhere. He's not. I wouldn't say I don't know how close he might be, but no, he hasn't kicked and he hasn't even dressed.
So will Jones be the guy this week?
Jones will be the kicker.
Luke, how has 2011 and the different things you experienced over the course of that season helped you to this point?
Yeah.
In this season?
I guess that they're all different, they're all new. It helped me more going into what I was doing. I don't know that in the midst of the season, because it was turmoil, but there was so many other. It was just a completely different mindset. I mean, you knew it was a 7-8 month. We got to take a shot at this thing. It was just that. In that way, it was different. Now, preparation for leading and doing a lot of the things, there's no greater experience you could get. But to say, hey, that gave you a lot of ideas of what to do. It was so unique in the situation, how you had to go about the season, as opposed to, 8 months of saying, hey, we're swinging and this is all we are to worry about, as opposed to saying, okay, yes, it's important, but it is about that journey, and we got to make sure that we know where we're headed. And the most important thing is, how are we going? How do we see the progression? Are we really watching that? Where that year it was, hey, we got to get to this many, we got to get this to give us an opportunity to have a chance. So very different, but the preparation, I think, was what probably has prepared me more than anything.